The title of my book is I Sang in My Chains, a memoir. I'm going to read from the preface. Looking back over half a century, I can see themes running through my life like waves on the water. In the broadest sense, these themes might be expressed in terms of money, love, and freedom. Much of my life up until now has been spent in houses where frugality ruled, where love was seldom expressed, and where someone else was in charge. Living on a dairy farm meant manual labor, which produced money. Dad had a favorite saying, "God gave you this," he would point to his head, "and he gave you these." He'd extend his weathered hands, palms up. "If this doesn't work," he'd say, pointing to his head, "you can use these," showing his hands. Rather than assume we had enough gray matter to earn money by using our heads, he always gave us jobs to do that required the use of our hands. We children did the usual farm chores of picking up stones and planting in spring, watering and weeding in the summer, harvesting in the fall, and shoveling snow in the winter. There was livestock to feed and cattle to milk every single day of the year. Nor did Dad spare himself. A workaholic by nature, he had a full-time job as a rural route mail carrier in addition to running the farm. Work never took a holiday, so neither did we. The debt of having been born was thus paid in sweat equity. Because money, getting and saving it, was the main focus of his life, it was ironic that even when he was a multimillionaire and 96 years old, he thought $1.29 was too much to pay for a packet of seeds. He did pay for them, but reluctantly. To add to the irony of it all, those seeds ended up being a magnificent spray of delphiniums that graced his coffin when he died the following year. Because it had been the goal of his life to make money work for him rather than for him to have to work for money, that floral arrangement, which would have retailed for at least $500, was a silent testimony to his having achieved his goal. If Dad was December, Mom was May. Subconsciously, we must have been afraid she had only a limited supply of love to give because we all competed for it. Unfortunately, it was a competition that set us at odds with one another for much of our lives. I can't remember Dad ever touching, much less embracing or kissing any of us. Mom wasn't particularly expressive in that way either. But she took a wholehearted interest in our lives, despite the demands of running a household as well as a farm. She enjoyed meeting our friends and encouraged us to experience life beyond the farm. In spite of Dad, we enjoyed swimming, ice skating, boating, growing flowers, and recreational reading. For my 10th birthday, Mom gave me an encyclopedia-sized book with a brown leather cover and gilt-edged pages. I'm sure she bought it without Dad knowing about it because he would have said no. But she knew how much I would enjoy a book like that, and I did, reading the lives of the saints over and over, marveling how these courageous men and women actually gave up their lives for their faith. I wanted to achieve that kind of sanctity myself. I entered the convent at the age of 14. It was the best way, I thought, to begin my own journey toward holiness. However, now that I look back, I can see that I was looking for an escape, subconscious as that motive was at the time. But life in the convent would not be what I had anticipated. If home was the mouth of the beast, the convent where I spent the next 25 years of my life was the belly. It has taken me until now, over 50 years later, to realize that the vows I took, poverty, defined as denial of money, celibacy, defined as denial of physical love, and obedience, denial of freedom, only intensified a life of denial begun in childhood. For the first 8 years in the convent, years of testing, rules regulated our every waking minute. The role of our superiors was to discipline, not to love us. If we needed something as insignificant as a bar of soap or a pair of panties, We had to ask for it on our knees. In fact, we were not allowed to have money. Any we might receive as a gift was handed over to our superiors. The only male figure we saw was the priest, who said Mass and heard our confessions once a week. Our freedom was so restricted that we were not allowed to go beyond the convent walls unless we had special permission. The sound of the bell, which punctuated our daily routine from dawn to dusk, dictated God's will for us. Such was the vowed life of poverty, celibacy, and obedience. After 25 years of convent life, I left. A year later, I got married. If I thought that marriage would deliver me from the belly I had been in for 25 years, 40 years, I should say, I was wrong about that too, because I soon ended up being the primary wage earner, poverty, of physically unfulfilled wife, celibacy, and still a submissive woman, obedience. It took me 20 years of married life to realize I was still on the farm, still in the convent. Certainly there were times when I felt repressed, deprived, and lonesome, but the good outweighed the bad by a huge margin. Life may have held me green and dying, as the poet says, but I sang in my chains like the sea. I sang